What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com, and I am back at the end of PFL for 2025, the World Tournament first round, and again, it was a very, very interesting card. I think the last three we described them as exciting and brilliant and good. I think maybe controversial is the more appropriate descriptive word for this one. I'll be honest as well. The main event, I wasn't expecting it to be good. I was like, oh, Phil Davis. No, not Phil. Turned out to be, was it Fight at Night? Maybe it was. A highlight reel finish. Obviously, we'll get to that. But there was illegal shot drama. There was decision drama. One decision I thought was really bad. Another decision I think a lot of other people thought was really bad that I agreed with. So, a lot of controversy tonight and a lot to talk about. But all in all, and we might do another show on this down the line, but we will be speaking about it more as the year goes. The 4 events so far for the PFL have all really delivered in different ways. As I said, the first 3 very, very exciting, and you would call them like really good events. This one I didn't think hit the mark as much as them, but that'd be hard to do it. But as I said, lots of talking points. Something you could spend the first few days of the week talking about next week to get through them. So that's good. That's good. If there's nothing to talk about from cards, then you'll be worried. So I would say the PFL are probably pretty happy with how the first 5 weeks, 4 events in 5 weeks have gone in this, and now we move on to the semi-finals. So again, the only thing that went wrong, Joy, I've been mentioning the commentary's been good, the production. The lights went down at one stage today, only for about 5 seconds maybe. They came back as well. The referee did a good job to separate the 2 fighters quickly, so that was the only issue today. But yeah, you can't complain about it. You cannot complain about anything here. No, we talked as well last week about the pacing. There was one early finish in the middle of the card. That was the only issue with the pacing. They actually started the main card before it was 3 a.m. my time. I think it was like 2:59 a.m. The fight actually started. So the pacing was a positive from PFL this week, if anything. So good stuff all around there. So right, let's get into it, because there's a lot to talk about, as I said, in these fights this week. And we're going to start at the main event, where Phil Davis, Mr. Wonderful, put on a wonderful fight. A very interesting back and forth sort of fight, where Phil Davis gotten in bits of trouble in terms of stylistically, I think, in terms of tactically, if not necessarily physically in the fight in terms of getting finished or anything like that. Although at one stage he kind of did, but we'll get to that. But, Rob Wilkinson, I think, and Phil Davis said it afterwards, Rob Wilkinson came with a very, very good game plan, and Phil Davis had to adjust to it, which he absolutely did. So they started off, and they were both very kind of square in their stances, I would say, which I suppose is not unusual for Phil Davis, but it would be a bit unusual for Rob Wilkinson. But Phil Davis was fighting in a kind of a different, on the outside sort of moving manner, which you wouldn't normally see from Phil Davis. Now, Phil does fight different ways at different times in terms of the movement on the outside, but I don't know if I ever seen him being as like fluid, I would say, and you remember the smart guys who know a lot more about it than me used to call it neo footwork years ago. No, it wasn't quite that, but I think defensively there was bits and pieces of that, which was very, very interesting. So Wilkinson started with a jab and a lot of leg kicks, something that would continue to happen, but Phil Davis landed a lovely 1-2, and that kind of kicked us into gear here, because I feel like that was those 2 things I just said there, the leg kick and the jab by Wilkinson, followed by the 1-2 for Phil Davis, were really the story of a lot of this fight. Wilkinson landed a right hand in after that, and he landed a few more leg kicks. Phil Davis level changed as Wilkinson was going forward, which I thought was very, very smart, but very good defense from Wilkinson to bring the fight to the clinch. There was a nice hard leg kick by Rob then, and then he landed a straight combo down the middle, which again was very, very good. And at this stage you could see it, that Davis was not only struggling with the leg kicks, he was also struggling with kind of the hand speed down the middle of Rob Wilkinson as Davis himself was kind of trying to jab and be the longer fighter. I don't know if you can hear him in the background, but the morning birds are singing here. So hopefully that didn't put anyone off too much, but hopefully you can hear. As I said, that level change into the clinch, into the hard leg kicks when they broke again by Rob Wilkinson, had him really kind of ahead in the round. Davis then landed a couple of his own leg kicks. Wilkinson answered backs, and Rob was just picking his shots very, very well. Then Phil Davis landed a nice right hand, but it was answered back very quickly by a right hand from Rob Wilkinson, which I mentioned earlier on, dropped Phil Davis, which Phil himself mentioned as well. Thought he was a touch off balance, but still, if it was boxing, I think it would be counted as a knockdown. So good stuff there. Rob landed a calf kick again when he got back up. Phil Davis, very smart. I think this was a kind of a sign of what was to come. Landed the 1-2 at the same time and both misled, but Wilkinson got that round, I would say, pretty unequivocally there. I don't think many people would have thought at that stage that this fight would only go for 51 seconds longer. So the second round started with Rob Wilkinson leg kick, and he set out with that leg kick. They kind of played around for a second. He threw another leg kick, and I feel like the timing off of this leg kick was something that Phil Davis is just thinking about between rounds. He's probably been thinking about for the last 7 minutes of this fight. And he just came with a huge right hand right down through the middle. And he hit him with it. He hit him with a nice... first of all, he hit him with a nice right hand over the leg kick. You could tell it hurt him a little bit. You could tell there was a bit of a bounce in Phil Davis' step after he hit him with it. And then again, Rob would just... I don't know if... I'd have to watch it back. I don't know if he threw the leg kick as he was kind of in trouble, or if Phil Davis just knew it was coming and threw that right hand again. Brilliant, big, massive right hand. Knocked Rob Wilkinson down. Phil Davis did. Rob in bad trouble on the ground. Landed a few hammer fists, or a few coffin nails, let's put them that way, or not even that. A few ground and pound shots, and got the finish. Good stoppage. Nothing wrong with that at all. Lovely, lovely shot from Phil Davis, and a really, really good finish. And what I meant by Phil Davis adjusting his game, I think he just became more attacking. It was as simple as that. Sometimes you hear sports teams like, "Oh, what was the big change you made?" "Oh, they just gave a little bit more effort," and I always find that very, very odd. But Phil Davis, I think, just came out here and go, "I'm going for this. I'm 40, 42 years of age, whatever it is. This, if I lose here, it's probably retirement. Let's just go out." I can't keep going the way I am, getting leg kick, because I think the leg kicks were going very, very badly for him. He had to push forward. He did push forward. He got the big knockout, and he got the lovely finish. And part of me could be a bit cheeky here and go, why didn't Phil Davis do this more often? Like, if we saw this from Phil Davis all the time, he'd be such a more appreciated and a better fighter as well, because I think that some of the frustration with Phil Davis down through the years has been that he is so talented. You know, no one wants to see him jabbing and wrestling his way to decision. I think there is so much more in him, and this was a kind of point pure on that. And very, very good finish for Phil Davis. As I said, 0-51 of round 2 over Rob Wilkinson, who's tough. Back to the drawing board, obviously, for Rob Wilkinson after that one. So that was the light heavyweight division. The heavyweight headliner was Valentin Moldavsky against Sergey Bilistini. A real fight of two halves here, a very, very close one. Again, this is one of those ones where one guy wins round 1, one guy wins round 3, and the middle round is the round that people are giving out about an awful lot. Now, I agreed with this score, but if it had gone the other way, I wouldn't at all have been mad. But a lot of people are mad about this. So let's get into it, and we'll talk about the scoring as we go or after. So, Valentin Moldavsky started out with a lovely calf kick. We saw a lot of calf kicks and a lot of clinching throughout the night, as tends to happen with the big boys. Bilistini landed a lovely jab and then a leg kick, and then they both banged in lovely hooks in the exchange. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that we would get that sort of thing this early in that fight. So my eyes lit up as the lights went out in the fight. The lights came back in. Bilistini landed a lovely turning side kick, landed a lovely leg kick, and then a counter left. Valentin Moldavsky came smashing in, but Bilistini just landed the better again. The first half of this round especially, and we'll get to the rest of it in a second. Bellissini was just first of the bunch, faster, better. Huge uppercut by Bellissini after that, then landed a kick to the body, and then we had the back kick to the groin, and it stopped for a second. As they got back in, Bellissini landed some body shots. Valentin Moldavsky then knocked him down with a right hand, but on the way up, Bellissini rocked him to his core with a shot. I'll be honest, I didn't see it. I don't know what it was. I don't think anyone saw it. I didn't see the replay, but all I know was Valentin Moldavsky was absolutely rocked to his core with some sort of short right hand maybe on the way back up. Bellissini was laying it on him, and I think he was about to get the finish maybe, and the bell goes. So Bellissini definitely won round one. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Round two starts, and Bellissini took his foot off the accelerator, his foot off the gas, if you're in the States. Both landed some nice straight shots early. Valentin Moldavsky recovered so well. He threw a wheel kick early in round two. Bellissini threw the same, but it didn't land. Neither of them really did. Valentin Moldavsky landed a left hand. And again, this is one of those rounds, if you're just listening to this afterwards and you have seen the fight, and you're probably thinking, oh, I scored it for Bellissini. If you go through it shot by shot, as I kind of have here in my notes, no, I don't think maybe Bellissini did as well as some people make out. And if you haven't seen it, that's good as well. I'll go through my notes here. So at this point, early round is pretty even. Moldavsky landed a left hand, Bellissini landed a hard jab and then an uppercut, as well as Moldavsky tried a takedown. But I wrote here about 90 seconds to 2 minutes into the round. Like, Moldavsky's just throwing a little bit more here. Like, Bellissini's trying to picky shots. He's not doing what he did in the first round and landed those big shots. He's like, oh, I'm ahead. Let's pick the shots. Let's win this fight. And it really wasn't working for him. Like, it's a dangerous game. He wasn't taking much either, don't get me wrong. But then, in the last 90 seconds or so of the round, Moldavsky landed a lovely left hook. He landed left hand and both landed left hooks. But I thought Moldavsky's shot was better. Then he landed some hard leg kicks towards the end of the round. Again, I thought Moldavsky just shaded it. I thought he landed the harder shots, did the more damage, and Bellissini kind of was just waiting. And I don't think he did enough. Close though. Look, if you give Bellissini that round, Moldavsky didn't do enough to guarantee winning that round. But I wrote down in my notes before the decision, before I knew where it was going to finish, close, but maybe Valentin. That was what I wrote in my decision, or in my notes. So the third round, slow start for the first 30 seconds or so, but then both landed hard right hands. Moldavsky got a clinch, and then for ages he got the clinch. Bellissini landed some brown elbows. There was a lot of them during the night as well. Then Moldavsky landed a lovely uppercut, got back to the clinch at halfway. Bellissini landed a nice knee, but Valentina landed a punch to the body. Valentin then landed some knees to the thigh, and there weren't much of it. There was a break late, and Valentin landed a nice jab. So, not much to score that on. It did, to me, look like a Moldavsky round. He controlled most of it. He landed the small little tappy shots. He landed those knees to the body. The shots outside of that, was there something on the feet to separate them? Not really. So I think that's the sort of round you do give to Moldavsky. So I had a 29-28 Moldavsky. If you had a 29-28 Bellissini, I wouldn't at all be mad, but an interesting fight. Bellissini got very, very tired in the third, and he just couldn't get out from that clinch, and it was a big issue. So the official result, as I said, it was a split decision win for Valentin Moldavsky. Sorry, it was a unanimous decision win. My apologies. Then we had Carl Moore against Antonio Carlos Jr., and this was the real controversial one. Now, maybe you'd say I'm Irish and I have a bit of bias here, but I think I was talking to, maybe I shouldn't say who it was, an American colleague of mine, and they felt the exact same way. And I think I saw Grabaka Hitman talking about it as well, and a few other people online, and I think most people felt this way. There was a clear... we'll get to it. We'll go through the fight first. So Carl Moore versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Started off with Shoeface landing a nice leg kick. Both were really trying to take the center, and I don't think either of them really ended up getting it. It was a real good battle for that. Carl landed a nice couple of kicks. Then there was an eye poke by Shoeface. Carl landed a nice kick to the body when they restarted, and 2 nice left hands. Shoeface landed a nice leg kick, as he tended to do, and then went for a single leg, which worked and got the fight to the ground. Shoeface was into the half guard, and it was a real struggle for that upper body position. Now, Carl's a big guy, and he's fought at heavyweight before, but Shoeface looked really strong in that position. He did a good job. Carl, though, did a good job to get to guard. Shoeface landed a lovely elbow, and then there was a lovely knee to the solar plexus as Carl had kind of got his back to the cage. But then Shoeface threw another knee, and it was not to the solar plexus this time, as Carl Moore had his knee down, hit him right in the head, clearly illegal, and a really, really, really big shot. One of the ones that, Carl Moore was on the ground, he didn't get up from initially. Was he knocked out? Was he like badly rocked? No, but it was a fight-altering knee, in my opinion. I think the opinion of most people. Very, very oddly, they went to the VAR, whatever you would call it in MMA, and they took ages to show replays to make a decision. And I believe Kevin McDonald was the referee. Wasn't that correct? Let me just check. It was. Kevin McDonald came back, and this wasn't Kevin McDonald's fault, by the way, but the cage side official, the screen official, the VAR official, told him that, we couldn't, and this isn't verbatim now, but Kevin McDonald basically said, we can't find a good angle, we're just going to give you a warning and fight on. Now, look, it's not the worst decision I've ever seen. Again, I'm a person who advocates for not taking points, but in a situation like this, or like a really bad eye poke, or multiple eye pokes, or holding the fingers out, something that really, really, really can have an effect on the fight. And do you know what? I think this probably did. That's where you take a point. Like, this is the exact sort of situation where points should be taken. I know people get very frustrated when points taken for everything. I'm definitely not one of those people. But this one, when you hit someone so hard like this, when they're on the ground, when they take 2 to 3 minutes or whatever it was to recover, and he didn't even get all that time to recover because they started it back up kind of relatively quickly, although Carl Moore was happy to start back up. I really think there was, okay, you could call me biased. Maybe I'm a bit biased. But again, I'm not an advocate for points being taken unless it's a situation like this. Like, this is actually a really good example of where I would advocate for a point being taken. But alas, it wasn't taken, and the fight went on. The Shoeface went in for a single leg when the fight restarted and got it pretty easily. And if you don't think, I think anyone watching that knows what happened previous to that led to that takedown being a little bit easier to get. Landed a right hand on the ground in a barrage of ground and pound, and some punches late, and Shoeface ended up winning the round. Now, would he have won the round anyway? Who knows? He was definitely ahead. He was definitely doing the better, but you turn that round from a 10-9 Shoeface maybe to a 9-9 round if you have a point taken, and it changes the whole fight. So the second round started, and Carl came out kicking. Time to recover, obviously, between rounds. Shoeface went for a single, but Carl defended it very, very well. Then there was a clinch, and Moore landed some nice knees in the clinch. Shoeface went for a trip, but he wasn't able to get it. Initially, landed some nice knees to the body. Then did Shoeface, and then went to the clinch. Nothing really came from it. Carl turned around, Shoeface turned around, and Carl was looking for the takedown himself, which I don't think a lot of people would have been thinking of. Carl threw a knee to the so Carl Moore didn't throw a knee, and it was low, and it was clearly low. The VAR looked at it again, and they go, "Oh, that wasn't low, continue." When it clearly was. Now, it wasn't a massive one or anything. Again, this isn't the sort of one you take a point for. I don't think, again, you might think I'm biased, but I think everyone would probably agree, but I don't know what this VAR lad was doing. I had no idea. Got back to a clinch again. Shoeface got on top in half guard, and then Moore got to the cage and landed some knees, got to his knees, got out, and then there was a late clinch again. Again, a close enough round. I think one judge gave it to Carl Moore, but I think Shoeface probably did enough to win it. So at this stage, Shoeface 2 rounds up. The third round, though, was was a Carl Moore round. There was a clinch after a bit of an exchange. Carl was attacking Moore in this round, and that served him well, really. You'd have to think, if you're Carl Moore and you're looking back on this, you're probably thinking, should that have been the number one, game plan, to come out and attack, come out and strike? Because when he did, there was no doubt about it, it worked for him. And I think, I don't think Shoefest liked it. I don't think he liked that pressure that Carl Moore was bringing, and I don't think he liked, having this big man in front of him throwing bombs. Shoefest went for a clinch again, and he was going for a takedown, but Carl Moore landed some nice elbows, and then Shoefest moved out. Carl landed a nice uppercut while Shoefest was going for the takedown. The fight ended up on the ground, and Shoefest ended up on the ground. He landed an up kick. It seemed to land well, but it didn't really seem to do a whole pile of damage. But that's one I think the judges cage side would be able to decipher better than us sitting at home. Then Carl got on top, and he was throwing some nice shots, going for some punches, and Shoefest went for a single leg. As the fight got back up, Carl got on top late. He nearly got into the mount, landed some elbows. Shoefest went for a heel hook late, but I think Moore did enough to win that round. And so the fight went to a decision. It was a split decision, 29-28 on all three cards. Obviously, 2 for Shoefest and 1 for Moore. If the point was taken, it would have been a majority draw, and then it would have gone to those odd rules that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, and the fight would have been scored. As a whole, I believe. Now, I put in a question asking about that. I haven't got it. Let me just check again. I haven't got a message back about it yet, but I'm hoping to hear back. Hopefully, I've actually been hoping to hear back from Hoyle. I don't know if people actually know or not, but yeah, I believe it would have been scored as a whole. If not, it would have been who would have won round 3. I have these up on my Twitter if people want to look at them. The rules on what happens if it's a draw, and obviously Carl Moore would have won round 3, but if the fight had been scored as a whole, you would probably think Shoefest would have won it, so hard to know in that situation. So Shoefest moves on either way. Then we had Carla Brexton versus Simone Powell, also at 205 pounds. This was a very interesting fight as well. I think Carl did very, very well early. He was pushing the pace, went for the immediate clinch. Powell turns him, and Carl got a body lock, back and forth against the cage. Carl landed some nice knees in the clinch, and Powell got out, but then Carl elbows on the way out. Both landed some nice leg kicks, and then a nice straight right by Sim was his best shot up until then. Then Powell went back into the clinch, which was a bit shocking at that stage. Was kind of just backing up way too easy, though, was Powell. When they were out straight, they got back out, back in again. Albrechtsen landed some nice elbows. Powell turned away out and landed a lovely 1-2, but then Carl ducked under a jab to get into the clinch, and again turning in and out. And then Simone Powell hit him with a hard right hand and hurt him. Carl clinched up, and then Sim landed some hard elbows late. I scored around 10-9 based on the late right hand. The commentary didn't really seem to make much of it. I don't know, am I on an island with that one or not? But I thought it was a nice right hand, and I scored it for Powell. But in the end, it didn't matter. Sim came out and landed a big. He missed with a big right early, and then Carl Albrechtsen got into the clinch. Carl landed some nice elbows, but Sim was back out into the standing looking for a takedown. There was a break. Carl landed a right hand, and then a hard left hook by Sim hurt Powell. Landed some huge elbows. Did Sim. Then landed a big right hand, and then a final elbow, which finished him. Was something else. Absolutely beautiful elbow. Powell turned it on for about 30 seconds, and that was enough. A beautiful shot. And the first round, wasn't the Simone Powell that people would want to see, and the second round was. That was it. So brilliant stuff there. Then we had Romanov versus Tim Johnson in the heavyweight division. Alexander came out as a southpaw, and he was looking for leg kicks in that left hand. Tim landed a nice treble jab. I actually thought Tim Johnson started really, really well here. He was bouncing in. That jab was landing. Alex landed 2 left hooks of his own, but Tim came back in with an uppercut into the clinch. Alexander landed some knees from that clinch, and then Tim landed knees of his own, one to the groin, in fact. And then they were both fighting southpaw for a while. Tim lands a nice lead uppercut, but as the fight kind of got back into the clinch, Romanov went in for the front choke, and as he did, Tim Johnson seemed to pop a rib as he was getting choked and tapped out. Now, I don't mean to laugh, but that's some old man heavyweight shit there. They get tapped to a choke / popped rib. So I don't know what it's down here in Sherdog. Let me just see. It's down as a guillotine choke. I suppose it was a guillotine choke. Guillotine choke / rib break. So good stuff there from Romanov. Look, it was always going to be a Romanov win, I think, there. Then we hit the most controversial one of the night, in my opinion, and I think the judges got this one wrong. This was Oleg Popov versus Carl Williams. So a lot happened in this fight. So it started with an inside leg kick from Oleg. Then the both were struggling for the center. Oleg landed a nice left hook. They then landed an outside leg kick. Carl landed a couple of leg kicks of his own. Nice 1-2 from Oleg. Then a left hook from on a takedown from Oleg, and it just doesn't get the takedown and eats a whole load of those Travis Brown elbows. Oleg stays on the single leg, and then Carl was throwing elbows irregularly enough, kind of just hold them there. Now, those elbows, we'll talk about more later on, but those ones weren't massive. He took a good few, but not massive. Then Oleg kind of went for the high clinch instead of the low clinch, gets the trip, gets the half guard. Carl moves to his knees and gets up to the clinch. Kimura by Carl was standing. It stopped the takedown, but still in the clinch, and Oleg got a single leg takedown, but the same again, scramble to his knees, did Carl Williams. There's a lot of Carls on this card, I just realized. Got to the clinch, back up. Carl landed a couple of elbows, and then Oleg got another late takedown. Now, it was a fight there. You'd look at that, and maybe I'm looking through my notes here and thinking maybe Williams should have won that round because he landed a lot of shots, but I don't think he landed anything massive in that round. I scored it for Oleg, but maybe in retrospect I should have scored it for Williams. But no, I'm sticking with it with Oleg there. But in the second round, this is an interesting round because, for the rest of this fight, Popov, I don't know, did he just do enough? Carl landed a left hook counter to the leg kick early, and then Oleg was throwing a good few leg kicks, fighting outside of range here and more with his hands down, but Carl landed a nice jab coming inside. Oleg landed a nice left hook. Oleg then fainted and tried to come into a takedown. It was the most obvious you'd ever see. Went into a clinch where both landed hooks, but then Nick Sick was saying in the corner, don't throw hooks. So Carl Moore came out and landed a 1-2, and it was a beautiful shot. So it was good cornering work there by Eric Nixick. Oleg went for a takedown, but it was no good. Then he landed a nice overhand right, which was a lovely, lovely shot. Oleg went for a single to the clinch, but then Carl landed some nice small elbows. And I wrote down small elbows because, these are not the biggest elbows in the world. And then waited another 10 seconds and more elbows. Another 10 seconds and more elbows. I'm thinking here, you can't stay in this position because we had some shots earlier. You didn't hand a whole lot of your Oleg. And Carl is ahead here. Williams landed enough of those shots, I think, to be ahead at that stage. Oleg goes high in the clinch instead. Because of that, the trip is no good for Oleg. And then Carl landed some hard knees late as well. So that round is a Williams round. I don't think there's much arguing over that. He did so well in that round. I think he did enough to take it. So that's a Williams round for me. Then the third round, inside leg kicks each. Oleg landed a nice right hand and then a jab, and then a jab to the single leg. But Carl he got the takedown, but Carl got into his knees, got to the clinch, stood back up. Carl landed some hammer fists to the head and the body then as they were standing back up, which again are good shots there in that position. Oleg went for the takedown again, but again immediately up. Carl was touching strikes in the clinch. Oleg was doing nothing. The ref broke it. Oleg looked very, very tired here. Carl did too, but I don't think as tired, even though he took it on short notice. Carl landed a lovely body kick. They both landed nice jabs. Oleg landed a nice left hook and another one straight after it, and then landed a right hand into the clinch with about a minute left. But then Carl Williams landed a really nice knee, and it was a big one. And then he landed another one. Then he went for a takedown of his own, and then at the very end, he threw a flying knee, and I thought this flying knee was pretty good. I thought that flying knee landed, so I gave it to Carl Williams. And I thought, it's hard to be anything clear on this, but I thought he won the fight. Ended up losing the split decision, so controversy over that one. We two more fights after that. One was long and one was short. First of all, the short one, Alex Polizzi, who moved into this fight, I think only in a day's notice or something like that against Sullivan Cawley. So Alex, funny enough, immediately went for a takedown. He lifted him up and dropped him, but he didn't manage to get the takedown. He went for a second one, and he did get the fight to the ground, kind of. He went for the quarter mount, and there was an awful fight for securing that position, and he was kind of stuck in that quarter mount for ages. And then Cawley managed to get to his feet in the clinch. Cawley landed a hard elbow in the clinch with the left. And then these Travis Brown elbows landed 5 of them in a row. On about the fourth one, you could see the knees buckling from Polizzi. He went down. He landed another one. Then he turned around and landed 4 punches. And by the time he had the second or third one landed, Kevin McDonald came in and he stopped the fight. I think it was a good stoppage. Alex Polizzi gave out about it, but there's no doubt about it. Those Brown elbows definitely hurt him. And a good stoppage there. And on the opening fight at night, we had Nascimento versus Babli. Babli came out of southpaw and lands a massive left immediately. Rodrigo was pushing the pace though, and Babli landed a massive 6 or 7 punch combination here to start it off. Nascimento ended up clinching. Babli won that position. Both landed in the clinch. Babli was doing that kind of Ian Gary push against that he does. And Rodrigo landed some nice knees, but Babli landed some to the body as well. There was a clinch for ages. Nice elbow from Nascimento. But Babli landed a nice combo on the break. They were both landing a good bit, to be honest. Rodrigo had a kind of a bloody nose though after a right hand in the middle of all of that, and Babli ripped to the body as they separate with around 20 seconds left. I had that 100% for Babli in my opinion there. Babli was switching in and footwork in the second. He went for a blast double and got the fight to the clinch. Nascimento kind of landed some knees in the clinch. He landed 4 of them by my count there. Babli landed a lovely uppercut to the body. And Rodrigo tried to break out, but Babli held him in twice. And I was a bit shocked by that, because you'd be kind of thinking, does Babli want to keep the fight in the center? But he seemingly didn't. Then they broke after both each landed. They're kind of like, all right, we don't want any more of that. And Babli landed a nice left hook. Rodrigo landed a nice right hand. So it's not very even up until this point. But Rodrigo then, I think, started to take over a little. He was landing a little bit more on the feet. Landed a nice jab and a right hand after it. Babli looked a bit tired to me. And then Rodrigo's attack, I wrote here in my notes, his attack was just winning. Babli did land a nice counter right, but there didn't seem to be as much power behind it. And then Nascimento landed a 1-2. And he landed another one. And there seemed to be more power behind him. And then finally, Babli landed a hard one. But I don't think it was enough. Because he landed one. And then Nascimento kind of came straight back to landing a couple of combos towards the end of the round. So I think that was a Nascimento round in the second. So we're 1-1 going into the third. Again, as things happen, close enough in the third. Babli landed a hard left. And he was now kind of standing in the center as opposed to the clinching of the second, sorry. Nascimento went for him, but Babli ended up clinching again. Nothing in the clinch. Babli lands on the break. Both were missing strikes at this stage. You're thinking, who's going to take this fight? Nascimento landed first, and then he landed a couple of jabs to the body, and a nice counter as well. Then they had a nice exchange. Thought Nascimento again landed the slightly better stuff. Babli landed a nice elbow in the clinch, but then the knees to the chin of Babli from Nascimento were really, really good. There was a break with about 67 seconds left, and again, I thought Nascimento was ahead here, but it was all to be taken for. And Nascimento just did the better. He landed a hook, and then a lovely jab. Then he landed a lovely knee from the Muay Thai clinch. Babli landed a nice counter left, but Nascimento landed a right hand, which I think sealed it for him. And he won the second and third, in my opinion. And the judges, 2 of the judges anyway, agreed. and he wins the decision in the opening fight of the night. So with that, the semi-finals are made, and they will be Phil Davis versus Sullivan Cauley, Schuhfers versus Powell in the light heavyweight division. And in the heavyweight division, we'll have Moldavsky versus Romanov and Popov versus Nascimento. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, please give a subscribe, a like, and all of that good stuff. And we'll be back next week with PFL Europe, PFL MENA, and all that good stuff. But until then, my name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.